What we
Yeah,
might do
the
about
number
it.
one, yeah, the policy is don't do it. Or if in fact they allow some people to talk to media, they require training. That's the primary rule. It's frankly usually written down, but it's rarely communicated, and the training is usually reserved for executives. But basically, it says you shouldn't talk to the press unless you've been specifically trained to do so by the firm or as part of a clearly communicated strategy coordinated with HR or sales or corporate communications or even an external consulting or media or training firm. And so this is what the outgrowth of that is. If you haven't been told you can talk to the media, and to be safe, folks, that means media of any type. I know it probably seems cool to get quoted in a blog, but to be safe, any type of media. And if you're just about at any firm we know of, large or small, if you haven't been told you can talk to the media, then you are likely to be violation in either one of or both of the rules regarding not being able to do so without training. If you talk to the media and you don't know what the rules are, you're probably in violation of one of the rules. And I know there are places that people that say, oh, big companies, they've got all these rules. Well, as we just said, small companies have the rule too. Maybe at a big company, you won't get fired, although it will hurt your career. At a small company, you could very easily get fired. Look, let me just go a step further here for a little more background. This is not a question of trust at all. It is a question, it is a function of the realities of organizational media and modern life. When we as professionals, particularly managers, speak to the media, and we are speaking at least in part based on our role within the firm, we are perceived to be speaking for the firm whether we are or are not. We don't get to speak for ourselves. The fact that we know we are not speaking for the firm, we know it. The fact that we know it is irrelevant. Communication is what the listener does, and that's not even the medium, right? The listener is not the medium. It's not the media. It's the medium's consumers, all right? We are completely insulated from our listener when we talk to the media, to the press. We're completely insulated from that consumer. And so therefore, in hindsight, we can't complain that we were not speaking for the firm because they thought the medium, not the medium, but the consumer of the media, right? The reader of the paper, the reader of the blog, the watcher of the video, the homemade video on YouTube or whatever, they thought we were when they heard us speaking and the person said, hey, you're with XYZ Corporation. And if they think we were, anything we say reflects and redounds back to our employer.
Yeah, but that's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah. That, you know what? I think we should change this to fair tools.
Fair tools.
Not career tools, but fair tools because careers are supposed to be fair, right? I mean, yeah. Isn't it funny though? I mean, people, you say that because we've heard that before, right? I mean, that's the response we get when we're talking to professionals who have gotten themselves in a scrape about a media interaction that went awry. They say, well, God, that's not fair, Mark. I mean, I can't believe that.
Well, often, we're gonna talk more about why this might be true.
Yeah,
it is true. Which is given what the press, and I say that in a very broad sense, what they do with our comments is so unpredictable sometimes that often when asked a question, the most appropriate comment is simply no comment.
Yeah, it's frustrating for people though, right? I mean, people want to be right. But yeah, the answer, our guidance is simply say no comment. It's the ultimate simple solution. Now look, we're not stupid. Okay. We know how tempting it is to be quoted. 90% of the time, what we're being asked is so benign, surely no one could figure out a way to make us look bad by saying something bland or simply plain old positive and supportive. So it's natural for many of us, virtually all of us, to say, this is small, this is easy, this isn't covered by the rules, right? And the answer, of course, is wrong. Before you comment, I have alluded to this before in the forums. Kipling's poem If has a couplet in it which says, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools. You may think the media are knave-like, and you may feel that the people who read your comments out of context, because of course the press is not required to accurately reproduce the context in which you were speaking for their readers and listeners. If you think that person is going to end up being a fool, it's far better to say no comment. And look, Wendy, our our career tools associate. She says, look, this is great. We were talking about this, Cass, and she says, the press isn't contacting you because you're important. They're contacting you because you're stupid. What she means, and she's totally, I think, channeling me just for effect, is that in many cases, the people they really want a comment from, that the media really wants a comment from, are either trained and knowledgeable enough on the topic so as to diffuse any potential media drama, or they're smart enough to say no comment. And so the media don't ask them. They don't. I mean, how many times have you seen a comment in the paper or on the in the press and the media where someone was, an official spokesperson for the company was quoted as saying, we have no comment, or we stand by our prosecution, or we stand by our products in the marketplace and believe they're right. They're simply bland statements. They're almost blandishments, right? So the media doesn't ask those people. They ask other people like us. And we say totally silly things, utterly unaware of how twisted they become and how knave-like the interlocutor can be and how foolish we're going to appear to a listener who, again, doesn't understand the context. And look, there's another important point we need to make. In the modern media world, we can never know to whom we're speaking and whether they may choose to see our comments as blog-worthy. And this could just be the guy or gal standing next to you who doesn't identify themselves in the press as being in the press anyway. People choose to see our comments as blog-worthy, they're blog-worthy, Twitter-worthy, or social media-worthy in some way. Every conversation that we have that draws on our professional role in some way is a reason to pause and consider to whom we're speaking and what the nature of our relationship is, as well as the potential risks of our comments becoming viral or even simply known more widely than we might like. Our recommendations here do not apply only to formal interviews with the press, but also in general to the life of a professional in the modern media world. And that may sound old, it may sound not as much fun, but it eliminates risk enormously. And if you do this for a while and learn the way to live this way professionally, it's much easier to take advantage of the value. So just say no comment. It may not be as much fun, but it's professional. And the fun that many people seek in having a relationship with the media is fraught with risks that nobody's telling us about. But we read about in the paper every once in a while and we say that won't happen to me.
Right. Well, we're asking people to do the same thing here that they do in their investments, which is you never assess value without risk. If you want a good return, that is.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's no free lunch, right? Yeah, exactly.
Good. Okay. So let's say you, I don't know, just say you ignore everything we said here about no comment.
Right.
It's really hard here because now we're going to talk about if you're the person who ignores our first advice and decide that you're going to talk to the media anyways. What should you say? What should you do?
What is that? A closed mouth gathers no foot. If for some reason you are in a situation where you do decide to speak to the media, please don't tell them we told you to. And whether that media is old or new, in some way, figure out how to stay positive despite the many opportunities you're going to be given to, shall we say, not be positive. It is so easy, and we'll give you an example in a moment, to feel yourself be perceived as smarter, more wise, more knowledgeable by saying negative things, by essentially endorsing the imposing point of view, because you're not saying that you believe in A because you know nothing about B. It makes you appear smarter to say you're in favor of A if you also show that you know a lot about B, which is really, really dumb in the media. Look, media members are expert at pitting our own desires against one another. Yeah, of course we want to stay positive, right? Sure, yeah, that's a desire. Why wouldn't I be? Because you have a competing desire to appear knowledgeable. You got to understand the other side of the story. Look, the protesters against our company have a point of view, and no manager worth his salt would suggest he doesn't understand their point even while disagreeing with those same protesters. But when we start stating the other side's point of view out of a desire to appear knowledgeable, we are in total danger of being misquoted or misunderstood both of which are dangerous in public. Because remember, we're going to be misunderstood by the media, and then they're going to make it even more misunderstood when they put it out in front of their listeners. Because again, everything we say to the media is being said widely to the public. Now, I have some examples from my professional career, but there are thousands more. Suppose we have a new product launch, right? Nothing unpositive about that. Suppose, look, let's be steroidal about it and say it's a portable product that has some buzz, that it's the latest iPod-like thing, right? That's a good thing. Nobody's going to complain about that. Everything's fine until the environmental protesters complain about the dangers of nickel-cadmium batteries, right? NiCad batteries. That they're not being recycled, and that they're like the ones that your firm is using because they're the industry standard, right? And you have to use industry standard because otherwise your product would be too expensive. And the reason they're the industry standard is because lots of people use them already, and so surely it's okay for us to use them. Now, okay, they're industry standard, but here the protesters are complaining. How are we supposed to know in our firm that there's a battery firm in China that's developed a battery fluid? It's not acid anymore. It's just called battery fluid that you can actually drink, right? You couldn't do that with battery acid before. And imagine them saying that to the press, or that firm, the one that's coming up with this battery fluid that we can drink, is the one that supplies batteries for the iPod. And in other words, this is one of the leading battery firms in the world. They're not, this is not some wacky startup that nobody's ever heard of, that the environmentalists are touting, right? And look, there's nothing wrong with what the environmentalists are doing. They're trying to take care of our heritage, our resources, right? But the environmentalists or the press are not going to tell us that neither Apple nor anyone else is using that technology yet. It's not proven, it's horribly expensive and so on, because they won't have to, because we're too busy backpedaling and stammering when we're asked, why aren't you using this stuff that won't pollute? And thus enters the problem, because ultimately staying positive almost inevitably, frankly, ends up back at no comment. You don't want to say no comment at that point unless you're trained on how to do it. Of course, we have another suggestion coming up in a second about repeating your point. But if you don't know how to get out of a situation like this, then you better start with no comment. And why does the press do this? Why does media do this? Because drama is almost inevitably conflict. There's drama in a birthday party, but there's a lot more drama in things that have conflict associated with them. Just sample 100 YouTube videos to see that the funny videos or the interesting videos are the ones where bad things happen, or funny things happen that are perhaps not bad, but are not perceived as funny at the time by the person who's in the video. So if you're going to stay positive and you're not trained on how to get out of challenges, you almost always have to go back to, no comment.
Oh, then you've lost the battle.
Yeah. The only way you don't lose that battle is say no comment at the beginning, right? So you're not interesting to the media, and they'll go talk to one of the spokespersons who's trained on how to do it. But if you get into it and then you have to say no comment, oof. Yeah, the company had no comment to blah, 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 blah. Yeah. In fact, you'll probably be discredited by the media person. Well, maybe a good thing. Maybe they won't talk to us anymore.
Maybe. All right, folks, that's it for this week. We'll finish it up again next week. In the meantime, have a great week. So long. Welcome to Career Tools. Today's show, Press Relations, Part 2 of 2. If you haven't listened to last week's show, you may want to do so first. But assuming you have, here we go with the conclusion to Press Relations.